You're sitting in your room late at night, staring at a message you almost sent. Your fingers are hovering over the screen, your heart racing, your mind replaying the last conversation over and over. You keep thinking, maybe if I explain it one more time, they'll finally understand. Maybe if I say it differently, they'll see how much this hurt me. But then you stop. Not because the pain is gone. Not because you don't care. You stop because something inside you suddenly feels tired in a way that feels deeper than sadness. It feels like clarity beginning to push through confusion. That quiet pause, that moment where you don't send a message, is often the very first sign that an empath is waking up. There comes a point in your life where you realize that being kind, patient, and understanding has slowly turned into you tolerating things you never should have accepted. And later in this conversation, I'm going to show you the exact emotional breaking point that causes this awakening to happen. The moment where your empathy stops being a weakness and starts becoming your strength. I'm also going to explain why the people who were most comfortable with your behavior are usually the react the strongest when you begin to change. We'll come back to both of those. For now, understand this. You didn't become this way by accident. As an empath, you learned early to read emotions, to sense tension, to keep the peace. You became the one who adjusted, the one who listened, the one who gave people the benefit of the doubt even when they didn't fully deserve it. This wasn't weakness. It was survival. It was how you kept relationships stable and avoided conflict. But survival habits, when carried into adulthood, often turn into self-abandonment. You begin to tolerate disrespect because you understand why someone is acting that way. You excuse hurtful behavior because you know their past. You stay longer in painful situations because you believe that love means not giving up on people. And this is where the awakening starts to build quietly beneath the surface. It builds in every moment where you walked away from a conversation feeling misunderstood. It builds in every time you explained your feelings calmly and were still dismissed. It builds in every situation where you gave more than you received and told yourself it was okay. Eventually, the weight of all those moments becomes too heavy to carry. That is when you begin to pull back. And pulling back feels strange at first. You might feel guilty. You might question yourself. You might wonder if you're becoming cold or selfish. But what's actually happening is that your nervous system is starting to protect you in ways it never did before. This is why silence feels so hard. For someone who's used to solving problems through communication, silence feels like an action. It feels like you're letting things fall apart. Your mind may tell you that if you don't reach out, you're being immature or that you're risking the relationship. But there is another truth that many empaths only discover after years of emotional exhaustion. Your silence is not weakness. Your silence is clarity. Let that stay with you. Your silence is not weakness. Your silence is clarity. When you stop explaining yourself to people who repeatedly refuse to understand, you are not giving up. You are acknowledging reality. You are allowing the relationship to stand on its true foundation instead of the one you were constantly trying to repair. This is where something powerful begins to happen. When you stop chasing conversations, stop chasing apologies, stop chasing reassurance, you create space. And in that space, people start to reveal who they really are without your constant effort holding things together. And this leads to another difficult truth. The more you chase someone's understanding, the less they value your words. It's not because your feelings don't matter. It's because chasing changes the emotional balance between you and them. When you are always the one reaching out, always the one explaining, always the one trying to fix what's broken, you unconsciously teach them that your effort is guaranteed. They don't have to move toward you because you are always moving toward them. Over time, this lowers your position in the relationship, not because you are less worthy, but because your availability becomes expected rather than appreciated. So when you finally stop chasing, it feels like everything inside you is going against its own programming. You may feel anxious. You may feel restless. You may pick up your phone multiple times a day, fighting the urge to reach out just to feel some kind of emotional relief. But this discomfort is not a sign that you're doing something wrong. It's a sign that you're breaking a cycle that was never serving you. And as uncomfortable as it feels, this is the exact space where your awakening grows stronger. Because in the next part of this conversation, we're going to look at what actually happens inside your mind and inside the minds of others when you stop chasing and start choosing your own peace instead. When you begin to step back, you are not just changing your behavior. You are interrupting a pattern that has been running quietly between you and the other person for a long time. Human relationships operate on repetition. We learn what to expect from each other through what happens again and again. If you have always been the one who reaches out first, explains your feelings, and tries to repair every rupture, then that becomes the emotional rhythm of the relationship. Stepping back breaks that rhythm, and your mind feels the shift immediately. You may feel uneasy, distracted, even guilty. This is not because stepping back is wrong. It is because your nervous system is adjusting to unfamiliar territory. You are used to taking action to reduce tension. Now you are allowing tension to exist without rushing to fix it. Your silence is not weakness. Your silence is clarity. That clarity allows you to observe instead of react. You begin to notice how often you were the one carrying conversations forward. You start to see how quickly you used to respond and how little space there was for the other person to show effort. This awareness can be uncomfortable, but it is also empowering because it shows you the reality of the dynamic, not just the version you were hoping for. At the same time, something is happening in their mind as well. When you stop reaching out, they lose the emotional reassurance they were used to. If they were comfortable knowing that you would always come back, always smooth things over, your silence creates uncertainty. Uncertainty forces people to think. They begin to wonder why you are quiet. They may replay past conversations. They may question whether they went too far or whether you are finally pulling away. Some people respond to this by reaching out quickly. Not always with an apology, but with a message that tests the waters. Others may wait, expecting you to return to your old pattern. Both reactions reveal something important about their level of awareness and investment in the relationship. Your silence is not weakness. Your silence is clarity. It shifts the responsibility of connection away from you and places it back where it belongs on both sides. And for many empaths, this is the first time in their lives that they experience what a relationship looks like when they are not the one holding it together. But while this psychological shift is happening externally, the hardest battle is still internal. The urge to text, to call, to explain yourself does not disappear overnight. It often shows up at the exact moments when you feel lonely, misunderstood, or emotionally triggered. You might pick up your phone without even thinking, your body moving out of habit before your mind is caught up. In those moments, you need practical ways to pause the cycle. One simple step is to delay your response. Tell yourself that you will wait 10 minutes before sending anything. Those 10 minutes create space between your emotion and your action. In that space, your thinking brain has time to catch up with your feeling brain. Many times, by the end of those 10 minutes, the intensity of the urge is already decreased. Another helpful practice is to write the message you want to send, but keep it in your notes instead of sending it. Let yourself be completely honest. Say everything you are holding in. This releases the pressure inside you without reopening the dynamic you are trying to step away from. It gives your emotions a voice without giving away your position. You can also change your physical environment when the urge becomes strong. Stand up, walk into another room, drink a glass of water, or step outside for fresh air. These small actions signal to your nervous system that you are safe and not trapped in the moment. They break the automatic loop between emotional discomfort and reaching for your phone. Your silence is not weakness. Your silence is clarity. As you practice these steps, your energy begins to free up. And this is where your focus needs to shift. For a long time, a large part of your mental space was occupied by managing this relationship. You thought about what they meant, how they felt, what you should say next. That constant mental engagement drained you, even when you didn't realize it. Now you have an opportunity to redirect that energy back into your own life. This means focusing on things that build your stability instead of depleting it. Your daily routine becomes important. Waking up and starting your day without immediately checking your phone gives your mind a calmer starting point. Engaging in activities that ground you, whether it is movement, quiet reflection, or creative work, strengthens your connection to yourself. You also begin to invest more in relationships that feel reciprocal. Spending time with people who listen to you, who respect your boundaries, and who do not require you to over-explain yourself reminds your nervous system what healthy connection feels like. This contrast helps you see more clearly what you were tolerating before. As your life becomes fuller and more centered around your own growth, something interesting happens. The person you were so focused on begins to occupy less space in your thoughts. Not because you forced yourself to forget them, but because your attention is no longer locked onto them. And in that shift, your awakening deepens, because you are no longer defined by how much you give to others, but by how well you take care of your own emotional world. At some point, after you have stepped back and held your silence longer than you ever thought you could, something often happens. A message appears. A call comes through. Or they suddenly start acting as if they have noticed your absence. This moment can feel emotional because it touches the part of you that once worked so hard to keep the connection alive. When they come back, the instinct is to feel relief. Part of you may want to jump back in, to respond quickly, to make things smooth again. But this is where your growth needs to guide your behavior, not your old habits. You slow the pace down. You do not rush into long conversations. You do not immediately offer emotional reassurance. You allow the interaction to unfold gradually. You listen more than you speak. You observe whether their behavior is actually different or if they are simply reacting to your temporary distance. Boundaries in this stage are not about being harsh. They are about being consistent. If a conversation begins to drift into guilt, blame, or dismissal of your feelings, you calmly step away. You do not argue your worth. You do not over-explain. Your actions show that access to your time and energy is no longer automatic. Your silence is not weakness. Your silence is clarity. You carry that clarity into every interaction. It becomes the quiet standard you live by. You decide what kind of treatment you accept, and you let your behavior reflect that decision. If they are willing to meet you with respect, patience, and effort, then the relationship has a chance to rebuild on a healthier foundation. But if they try to pull you back into the same patterns that once drained you, you step back again without drama. This is what it means to have standards. Not loud declarations, but calm consistency. Now, there's another possibility you must be ready for. They may not come back at all. The silence may continue. Days turn into weeks, and weeks into longer stretches of time. And during that period, your mind may try to fill in the silence with painful stories. Maybe I didn't matter. Maybe they were just waiting for an excuse to leave. Maybe I should have said one more thing. This is where you must remind yourself of something deeply important. Silence reveals truth either way. If someone truly values your presence, your absence will register. They will feel the change. They will wonder. They will reflect. And at some point, they will reach out. If they do not, it is not because you are unworthy of effort. It is because the relationship was being held together mostly by your effort in the first place. Your silence is not weakness. Your silence is clarity, closure. In this situation is something you create for yourself. You stop waiting for the perfect explanation or the apology that may never come. You look at the pattern of behavior, not just the words, and you allow those patterns to give you the answers you were searching for. This is not about becoming cold. It is about becoming honest with yourself. With that honesty, you begin to move forward with dignity. You stop checking your phone hoping for their name to appear. You stop replaying every moment trying to find the exact point where things went wrong. Instead, you begin to invest your energy into your own healing, your own growth, and the relationships that show up for you without being chased. You carry the lessons, not the pain. You become more aware of your boundaries, more aware of your emotional limits, and more protective of your peace. This is how an empath transforms, not by losing their empathy, but by learning to include themselves in the care they give. Let's bring this together simply. You stopped chasing even when it felt uncomfortable. You allowed silence to exist, and that silence created space. In that space, people revealed who they were and how much effort they were willing to make. Some stepped forward, some stayed still. And through it all, you began to see your own worth more clearly. Silence reveals truth either way. Here's one clear action step you can take from today. The next time you feel the urge to reach out just to reduce your anxiety, pause and ask yourself one question. Am I reaching out to build a healthy connection, or am I reaching out to avoid feeling uncomfortable? If the answer is about avoiding discomfort, give yourself time instead of giving away your energy. That small pause protects your self-respect more than any message ever could. Your silence is not weakness. Your silence is clarity. And as you continue to live by that clarity, your relationships begin to change. The people who truly value you will rise to meet you. The ones who only valued your effort will fall away. What remains is a life that feels lighter, more honest, and more aligned with who you are becoming. If you're ready to keep strengthening your emotional boundaries and learn how to stay compassionate without being taken for granted, watch the next video.